cool. Okay, great. There we go.
And they're off.
And they're off to the races. It's trying to get a podcast on Head by the Lead, followed close behind by Can't Get the Microphone Going, followed close behind by Google Hangouts and plugin problems, and followed close behind by Podcast is Beginning.
Yeah. Anyone want to take a guess at whose microphone and computer wasn't working? Huh, Internet?
Can we talk about your mutant power?
Sure. I think we have before, but my mutant power I discovered when I was a boy. I don't know if I give off like EM fields or I don't know. Maybe I'm radioactive. I don't know. I had a lot of X-rays done when I was a kid, but things don't work around me. Electronic devices, street lights tend to go out. Radios get all staticky, and apparently, podcasts refuse to happen when I am involved.
It's an interesting ability for a professional podcaster to have.
I picked the right career.
It is. Well, speaking of professional podcasting, welcome to ArTechník Podcast. This is a podcast about the intersection of art and technology. If this is your first time joining us, well, fantastic. Welcome. We talk about all kinds of weird stuff, artists and technology, and how they intersect, like I just said one sentence ago. But I think we should
the good old days.
all go around.
If it's your 60th time joining us, thank you. We're glad you're still around.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really are. And I think whether it's your first time or your 60th time, we should introduce ourselves. I am Jeff Holbrook. I'm a freelance creative type. And joining me today from Stone Mountain is...
I'm Aaron Gottlieb. I'm an actor and puppeteer, writer, creator, producer, director, all sorts of fun stuff.
And the lovely gentleman from Kentucky.
Who needs no introduction? My name is Adam Montague, and the office I'm sitting in right now at the Children's Theater, the motion sensor finally kicked on after me sitting here for 40 minutes, and the lights just clicked on. Scared me. I thought somebody was coming into the office. But yeah, I'm up here at the Children's Theater, and we have been orienting and mentoring interns, college students, and recent college grads to prepare for the summer program here at Lexington Children's Theater.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So what mountain were you on where you were taking album cover shots?
Oh, yeah. I wasn't taking the picture because I left my phone in the car, but all the interns, it really kind of tickled me a little bit. We went to the Natural Bridge that's here in Kentucky. It's it's in the Daniel Boone National Forest, which comprises a large eastern part of the state and down into the southern part. But we went out as sort of a cruise direction, sort of, get to know the summer interns. And we had a really fun time. And so it tickled me every time we got to a vantage point. Every single one of them took out their phones and immediately started snapping pictures of themselves and of the panoramas and everything. So,
it was a well-documented
It really
trip.
was. I mean, literally, there was one moment when we were on top of the Natural Bridge, and there were so many different camera phones in our group taking pictures at that time in so many different directions. You could have taken all of their photographs and made a completely 360 enclosed, recreated environment of being on top of this Natural Bridge.
And they weren't seeing any of it because they were face down in their phone.
That's what tickled me. I mean, they, and granted, we were hiking, so this is, maybe a little unfair, but it just tickled me that rather than just sitting there and taking in this very natural, beautiful, skyline, which it was gorgeous. It was a beautiful day. They mostly saw it through their viewfinders on their camera phones.
Now, isn't that how they did the bullet time cameras in The Matrix, right? There was 360 degrees worth of cameras.
Oh,
there were multiple cameras set up around one object.
Yeah, when they would do those leaps in the air and they would kind of freeze. Yeah, they literally set up a circle of cameras around the shot, and sort of.
And then edit them all out in the visual.
Oh, sure. Yeah, because there was a little bit of CGI in that film. I don't know if you're aware, Aaron. Yeah,
right.
In post-production,
that was
a little bit.
That was the Matrix, right? It was the Matrix.
Speaking of the Matrix, and I know, Aaron, you've seen this. Have you seen that new internet? I'm asking you now. Have you seen that commercial with Agent Smith where
Yes!
Yes!
it's for, isn't it for like GE and all of their like healthcare equipment or something, like all of the electronic health records and things?
It is definitely healthcare
Yeah.
related. I can't remember which company, which tells you how much the commercial is working, but
It is.
It was
it's
very
such
creepy.
the wrong approach if you actually
Want people to
know the
yes,
movie.
and if you want people to feel safe about coming to a hospital, you do not pick this omniscient villain from a computer, generated program to introduce you to all of the new changes in healthcare. Like it is terrifying.
You know what that makes me think
What?
about? Hospital food. That Jell-O liquid baby.
Oh my! What?
What are you
Remember-
talking about?
In the oh my god! No, I'm not a monster. No, in the Matrix, they liquefied. Okay, I should have said liquid dead people. They liquefied dead
yes.
people and fed them to the babies as liquid.
You are correct. But,
Sorry, I
but
said
your
liquid baby.
summation,
Sorry,
yes.
liquid baby.
That didn't communicate at all. You remember, like in the Matrix, where they eat babies.
What, did we see a different Matrix?
We might have. Cause,
Was that on Reloaded?
Oh my god! But yeah,
Sorry, I watched the Baby Matrix. It was from Japan. It was the Japanese.
it's a mix of Battle Royale and The Matrix.
ooh, such a great film.
I think you're thinking of Battle of the Planets. I'm just kidding.
No,
G-Force.
Matrix
Yeah.
Royale with cheese.
Royale with
Royale.
cheese.
That's what they call it in France.
La Matrix.
That was my impression of John. What's his name? Travolta. But I think
Travolta.
but I think I sounded more like him when he was on Welcome Back, Kotter.
We can.
It
Can
was
we
still
please
closer
pass?
than Jeff has ever gotten.
Can we please pass the bad impression crown on to someone else?
Only when you stop doing bad impressions.
Ah.
Oh gosh, but yeah, just if you've never seen it, go look up this just terrifying commercial with Agent Smith making you feel safe about going to the hospital.
You
What
know,
if-
when corporations are so protective and like not willing to take risks about anything, and then something like that bubbles through, you're like, who signed off on this? Who thought this was a good idea? How did this make it into the rest of
Yeah.
the world instead of some weird pitch session before the guy got fired?
Yeah,
On the other hand, we're all talking about GE healthcare stuff right now.
guess
Guess
so.
Yeah. All right. I tried.
know.
I tried.
Any publicity is good publicity.
Maybe
Is it? Is
That's
it?
what you just. That's what you
All right,
just.
but not
said.
all.
Mhm.
I know, I know,
wait.
and now-
Not all publicity. We
What?
actually were having a conversation about this the other day. Some of the interns and Amy Kissling and I, because she had stumbled upon like a BuzzFeed link that was like the top 10 or top 12 worst company logos. And she said the one that really stuck in her brain was there was one for, and she couldn't remember where it was in the country, but it was like this Catholic charity that was for helping orphans and sort of foster children. But the idea was pairing them up with priests and stuff. And so there's this image. So there's this image of, and it's very abstracted. Think kind of like stick figure with what is supposed to be the priest with his arms up in the air, and then a smaller human figure that is overlapping like his hip right at crotch level. And so it looks like the little stick figure is making the big stick figure, or maybe I should say the other little stick figure, very happy. And she was just like, and she did. She showed me an image of it later, and it was just terrible. It because of everything else that has befallen the Catholic Church and a lot of the things that are with the accusations of what the priest did. It seems like a poor choice. And again, that at some point somebody would have looked at that image and go, you know what that kind of looks like? But somebody didn't. And then to follow up with that, one of the interns here, I think it was Mary Catherine, I can't remember if it's her brother or her brother-in-law. His job is to work. He works for a toy company, and his job is simply to look at toys and look at the marketing for them and make sure that there is nothing sort of inappropriate about the way the information is presented, so that an accident like that, parish Catholic priest thing that I just talked about happens. His full-time job is just to make sure dirty stuff is not being put out there.
I can get the logo thing because you get really tunnel visiony as you're like looking at all these different logos, and then you send it to the designer and make this change and make that change. Because we have this really great logo for our office, which is two parents holding their child up, helping them succeed and achieve and reach the stars. And immediately upon publication, certain people responded that it looked like the parents were helping their child off to heaven, and that this was a poor choice for a medical practice.
By certain people, do you mean someone in this podcast?
Jeff Holbrook.
I hate that bastard.
Most of us do.
Now, Aaron, to be fair, it is sort of part and parcel of my relationship with you that I would say something like that, much as if I presented something that you had a witty observation about. You might feel inclined to let me know that as well.
Sure.
But to be fair, you know that anything that we say to each other at some point is going to be used to fill dead air on the podcast. So
That's true. I am glad that you brought it up because
it was running through your head.
I said, I cannot do that. I cannot do that. Because it's a nice logo. It is a very nice logo.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I put that image in your head.
And now I've sent it out into the world.
But you know what? Any publicity is good publicity. That's the position that I have chosen for these 30 seconds until I flip-flop again.
Well, speaking of big corporations and logos and franchises that are up for sale, Atari, Atari makes the games. They went bankrupt last year. And
you mean Atari?
No, that's not what I meant. But anyway, they went bankrupt last year, and they have been trying to sell off the properties. First, they were trying to find a buyer for the company to get themselves out of bankruptcy, and they've been trying that for a year. And the offers that they've received, they felt weren't enough, and so they've outright rejected. So what they are doing now is they are selling off parcels, basically like chunks of video games and their titles. So you could buy like the rights to Roller Coaster Tycoon, or like some of their older ones, even to go so far as you could purchase the symbol, like the Atari logo. You know what I mean? So that you would be the owner of that thing. So they basically chunked everything up into like, yard sale, fire sale prices. Everything must go. So if you've got
we're even selling old Ataris. That's where I would buy my old Atari, would be at a yard sale. So
that,
what if the band the Ataris bought it?
That would be awesome. They probably could. Now, again, you're still talking like for a lot of the properties, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, but that's cheap considering you're not.
That impacts me personally in a very deep way. Do you know why?
You looked sad when I said it.
Do you know what Atari developed that is very near and dear to my heart?
Pong, Pac-Man.
Nope.
Quark.
No.
Star Trek Online.
Oh.
Did they? See,
Star Trek
that
Online.
was my guess, but I couldn't imagine why they would be connected to them in any way.
Star Trek Online was developed by Atari Interactive, and I don't know if now CBS owns the rights to Star Trek since CBS and Paramount are a thing together now. But I don't know if Atari owns Perfect World, the company that produces lots of different MMOs a la Star Trek. I don't know if they own them or not, but I know Star Trek was developed by Atari.
Sure.
So
Well, that's cool.
Just concerned, a little nervous.
So if anyone wants a piece of Atari, send $1 million in to Adam Montag, care of Lexington Children's Theater, and I will make sure Atari
back you
gets
go,
that money.
back you go.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they haven't gone out before now in a way,
Yeah.
They got so outpaced in so many ways that it's interesting that they've been sort of quietly workhorsing in the background, and that it's only this last year and this year that they're really pulling the plug, calling it quits.
What do you think did it? I mean, what do you think did it? Let me just start there. Why do you think
What
you guys
finally
think that? Yeah,
flipped
what
the
was
coin?
finally did it? Put the stake in the heart.
Digital distribution.
Yeah.
Are you just saying that, or are you
Yes.
thinking yes?
I don't know. I don't know enough about the company and what they've focused on in the last couple of years. I don't know if,
Mm-hmm.
maybe they were, I don't know, maybe other companies were looking towards figuring out ways to sort of advance the home playing system, and Atari was, sticking with, I don't know what had always worked. I just don't know enough about it to give venture even a guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm interested in, okay, if Atari's going under, which kind of makes sense because everyone's like, oh yeah, Atari, I know them, and there's this sort of nostalgia for them, but hard to think of anything recently where you're like, oh, I've got to play this new Atari game. Bleh. At least not that I've been aware of.
But
Yeah.
well,
Adam's
no,
got
I was going to say, but like you were saying, they helped create the Star Trek Online, which seems to be fairly popular. Like a lot of people aren't
But
there?
it is free to play.
Oh, okay.
That's a free to play game. Now there are things that you can purchase within it, but I have no idea.
Yeah.
You know what's great about this? This is sort of follow up for what we were talking about last
It
time.
really
of how in
is,
the hell
yeah.
do you monetize intellectual property? So Star Trek Online is free to play. I am Gregory Hull. You can look me up if you would like to play. Star Trek Online is free to play, but when you're in the game, there are these things that you can purchase. If you
Don't
want to
purchase them.
spend, don't purchase them. It's not. They're not real items.
Unless you're
guys.
going to use the Polar Studios Amazon code.
Amazon.
But see,
right.
I just had that immediate visceral
Yeah.
reaction as I do every time I
Right.
play on any of those games. I'm like, the game is free. I should not buy
Right.
anything.
Here's the thing. Yeah. Here's the thing is that Perfect World, the company that makes Star Trek Online that may or not be owned by Atari or whatever, I can't figure it out. Perfect World, Cryptic, there's a whole bunch of names that I'm not sure who is who anymore.
We need boycott.
Track
Track it up through the ladder.
They open other is that a squeaky cart going by?
No, somebody just walked in the back office.
Sounds
It's
like
an intern with
That's all right.
symbols.
There's a little wind chime at the front door. Just keep talking.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Derailed. Atari. License. Oh, okay. There's a bunch of other games that this company produces that are free to play, and they made a big announcement about one of these games. I forgot what it was, but they said, so it's such and such game is now free to play. And it sounds like that is the thing that they want to move to because we want everything on the internet to be free. Right. And this game that was a pay-for game before must not have been doing well enough revenue-wise, so they moved it to the free-to-play model, which either means that the free-to-play model with the, if you want to buy them upgrades, and I do know people who buy things in the games, must either be doing okay or at least be doing better than a paywall-only game. If they're, or they're just floundering, or they're just trying... Or it's like Adam saying, it's all just shaking up so much, and they're just. Adam said last week that everything is in such flux that people are just flailing and trying and seeing what's going to stick.
Well, I mean, I think those free to play games do get in those micropayments pretty well because, like, when they have those things where they were having treasure chests basically around the world, and if you picked one up, you could buy keys for them. So your inventory was ridiculously stuffed with these stupid treasure chests. Like, you could not fight a battle without getting like 4 to 10 of them at a time. They were just throwing the treasure chests at you and charging for the keys. And in the treasure chests, you could get like this really exclusive spaceship. As like the big prize. So you could get a variety of little things or potentially this one really big thing. But like every 30 seconds, the system was spammed with a message, so-and-so just won a blah, blah, blah spaceship. And so if they were churning through those keys fast enough that every 30 seconds or so somebody was winning a big prize, how many of those treasure chests had to be opened at $1 a pop for all of the little prizes that filled in those 30-second ranks?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I would say, I guess, a lot, because I see those messages flash across all the time. And so that's not bad, right? That's just the company trying to make a buck so that I can play my game for free because I really like playing my game.
Sure.
Now, granted, I'm the worst kind of player because I don't do any of the missions. I just go and I like to walk around and look at stuff.
Yeah.
That's all I do.
You're the worst kind of player in several different definitions of the
That's
worst
true.
kind of player.
Worst kind of podcaster, the worst kind of...
Because you don't spend any money, you
Yeah.
don't actually play much of the game. You really do these like tour guide.
You run into the
things of
walls a
just
lot.
Going to like, you run into the
do.
walls a lot.
I do. I do.
And
I
I
do.
run into the walls half as much, so I'm twice as good.
we should promote a big ArTechník phaser fight party sometime.
Well,
Not,
they could
you know.
they could petition to join the Squadron of Awesome, our
Yes!
amazing fleet.
Yes.
Send us an email at arttechniquepodcast@gmail.com, and we will
Yeah.
invite you to the Squadron of Awesome on Star Trek Online.
Wow.
You'll get an extra uniform.
So continuing on this rabbit hole of monetizing intellectual properties, which is the thing near and dear to my heart, and going back to video games. So Nintendo's in trouble, right? We all know that. Is that true? Nintendo's in trouble.
I've heard both of you say as much, so I'm taking your word on it.
Right. Nintendo's in trouble from a revenue standpoint, and more importantly, Nintendo is in trouble from a perception standpoint. People basically, 6 years ago, whenever the Wii came out, people bought a Wii, and it was an oddity because it was cheap and it was unique in the kind of gameplay that was available at the time, and not too hard to understand. The Wii U comes out and it is unique, and it is daring, and it's kind of familiar as well because it's a Wii again, and it is hard to understand at a glance exactly what it is and why I want to hold this big tablet. And the bigger thing that I'm coming to is the impact of perception on, will a company live or die? Is a company profitable or not? Is it, I think largely if a thing is considered not cool, how long until it is not profitable?
I think pretty immediately. I think it's a pretty fast turnover. You know what I mean? Like, again, we're going to gravitate to what's free, what's easily accessible, even if it's pay a little bit. What's easily accessible, and I think that caveat kind of dictates trends. To a large extent. Then you've got things on the other end that, okay. What my brain went to was something like a Justin Bieber or like some big pop star that you've got like all of these young fans. But then I was like, well, that's not really their money. They're using their parents' money. So again, it is, it's somebody that's looking for something for free.
And I think
go ahead.
Perception as a leading indicator of economic growth or constriction, right? Let me make Apple people mad, including me. No, Apple is, whether they want to understand it yet or not, Apple is on the road to being in trouble. Yeah. Not financially yet.
Not yet.
Financially, the numbers, the products they're selling more products, especially smartphones and stuff now than they ever had. Their margins are great. Their revenue is ridiculous. I mean, it is ridiculous amount of money that Apple makes.
They were saying that, I don't remember the exact numbers, but I remember the comparison was that the company, Apple, has more money than some small countries on the planet. Like some small, modern, like well-off countries. Yeah. Right.
And as a confessed Apple fanboy, that makes me very excited. I'm great. It's like seeing the thing that makes things I like do well. Okay. The flip side with that, the part of me that's like, I liked them until they were mainstream, right? Notices that, you know what? Now that they're top dog in the way that, in a lot of ways, Microsoft was top dog, they're getting a lot of the same, and I don't think it's all unjustified, okay? They're getting a lot of the same flack and perception shift because Android's particular, Samsung in particular, has been so aggressive. Sure. And Samsung is looking to break away and do their own OS, out of I'm sure will be based in Android, but Samsung's really looking to get as much money as they can and create their own operating system because Samsung is interested in building Samsung, right? And the perception right now is these things are coming into their own and they're really cool and they can do they're really playing on the advantages they can take that they have in not being in this walled garden system that is and plus iPhones are everyone's parents' phones right now, okay, right? And so even though for someone like me who this is a great device, the phone hasn't changed. It still does all the great stuff that it did. It's still just as easy to use and syncs up with all of my stuff, just like it ever did. But the perception of it is changing in the masses so much that I think they are absolutely gonna lose revenue on it, and I'm hoping that it makes them less complacent, and they go, oh, we got to shake things up and do something different and get back to being innovative again. And the fanboy part of me needs
right. And I don't know if that particular idea you're putting out there speaks to my what is cheap and what is free, because certainly technology is not very cheap relatively to a lot of things that are out there. But you're right. I think what happened was that's been the big argument against a lot of like what the last couple of recent iPhone incarnations, that they haven't been terribly innovative. You know what I mean? Like there's been some surface changes. And again, I don't know that much, but there's been some surface changes, and iPhone, the same thing that
it feels more and more like they're selling you an upgrade so that they can sell you a new phone rather than because they're giving you some sort of upgrade.
And here's what's crazy is
I was going to say, and part of the things that I think made Apple so successful in the beginning by being so tightly proprietary and being able to deliver this innovative product, because again, at the time it was, has now sort of tied their hands maybe a little bit.
Like they got too good at what they do?
No.
Like
no. I'm just going to say that. What am I trying to say? By the difference is, and correct me if I'm wrong in this understanding. The Android system is much more open. Like people are allowed to sort of tweak and adapt it. Right? Yeah. Whereas iPhone used to be like, you tell me you could jailbreak devices and things like that, but now they've clamped down on that more tightly now than they did in the past, because again, they're trying to hold on to this thing that they created tighter and tighter and tighter. And by not being as open and I guess as free with what they're putting out there, I don't know. The image, I'm getting an image of like this old man huddling to this little creation that they've made while the entire world goes by and is grabbing onto these newer, brighter, shinier, newer things. And, he's completely missing it because he just can't. He's still living in the past, man.
He's living in the past. Living in the Steve days. That's not a bad point at all. I think I will say that on the inside, the internals of the devices have changed quite a bit. Like they've really, really improved. But the strength and the weakness of Apple hardware-wise is they came out with that phone. It was a great design, and it's continued to be a great design. And while the innards have changed quite a bit, the phone always, it's a little taller now, but the phone always kind of looks the same. And it's only every 4 years or so that we get quote drastically for them different design change, and even then, it's still the same. Right. So even though the hardware inside is so advanced and so good,
the casual
on the outside,
observer sees the same phone over
so you're
and over.
Exactly. You're talking about perception on the cosmetic level, then. Yeah.
Yes, and that's bringing me back to what I was saying earlier. Is that what if Atari was making really killer games? Like, I really like Star Trek Online, but like, what if they're making really killer games, but the perception is, man, it's Atari.
Right.
So Apple's building really great hardware, but it looks just like all the other ones.
Apple.
Well, it ties into that psychological example we talked about with the brand actually, the painters, that if they were told it was an authentic painting, they inherently sought out the positives, and if they told it that it was a student, they inherently sought out the negatives. And so that branding really can influence what's popular. Another example that I keep coming to is, I look at a game that suddenly like skyrockets in popularity. like Angry Birds when it first hit. And because it's really cool and popular and the thing everybody wants, it's in the top 10 downloads. And then when you're looking for a new game, you're like, hey, what's interesting? What's new? And you look in the top 10 downloads and you're like, oh, Angry Birds, what's that? And then you download it because it's right there at the top of the list.
Mm-hmm.
And that keeps it at the top of the list so that you keep coming into the same sort of loop. And whether the game is actually as liked as it is downloaded is not represented.
Mm-hmm.
It's the chart syndrome, right? It's just like whenever I go to look for new podcasts, because guys, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I don't know if you know those. It's whatever's charting right now. Yeah, you're right. They sort of feed on themselves. Now, the perception thing, saying that something is a great product or a bad product, just based on point of view and not even the merits of the product itself, I think that's really, really useful for artists. Of all sorts, because we have a tendency, I believe, if I may speak for all artists, which I cannot do, but I have had, I'll speak for me, a propensity to undersell things out of a sense of perhaps lack of confidence, or you may know that you're good at something that you do, but it's still weird that someone else sometimes would agree with that. And when you are a freelancer, whether you're a freelancer actor or if you're any kind of artist or freelance worker, or even if you're a freaking software engineer, right? But it's you, and not only do you have to make the thing, but you've got to convince other people that they should give you money for the thing and that has value. I think that is a skill we need, is to learn how to say, hey, I'm good at this. And value and cost are not the same thing. What it costs me to create this piece of software for you, or to act in this play, is not the same as the value that you get from it. So the value should be higher than the cost. But artists and underselling,
about
that's my
about
umbrella.
Hearing aids. That's the reason hearing aid prices are so high is not that the device, the technology costs more than a couple $100,
Mm-hmm.
but that the expertise to design and refine and train you in its use is the value added thing that is causing people
Mm-hmm.
to not be able to afford them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like that.
I was just going to say, just to throw another little comparison in there. Our choir, one of our choir directors in the church that I grew up in, his name was Daniel Pyle, and he was there for a good bit, and he tended to skew more towards classical, like in terms of things that we sang in our choir. And he also was a harpsichord player. He had 3 harpsichords himself, and at the time. And of course, because he knew how to play it, he knew how to maintain it. He was the only harpsichord player south of something like Knoxville. And so he made so much money going to play with different like philharmonics and symphonies in the, Georgia, Alabama, southern Tennessee area. Or if somebody, if they had a harpsichord and it broke or something split, he knew exactly how to fix it. Because again, he was like literally the only harpsichord player in like a 3 or 4 state sort of block. And so he made bank. He made bank doing it because he was the only one there that could fix it.
I will be the only harpsichord player in the tri-state area.
So yeah, keep moving on. I was just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, well, coming back to the dangers of underselling yourself if you are a freelance artist, and how to not become Atari. Mm-hmm. Because if you're a freelance artist and you undersell yourself, it's not like you can hack off, your arms and limbs and sell them piecemeal. Well, maybe you can, but it's not like there's really a way outside of selling all of your stuff to disassemble and sell parts off and hope to recoup, your investment, if you will. If you're an artist and you're selling yourself and you're underselling yourself, then you're just gonna go broke and be done and not ever get jobs, right? And I think it also does something to your self-esteem and to your morale, to be like, I know I'm good at this, but I don't want to be a braggart about it, or I don't, or maybe I want to be a little more modest when I go into a room, because of course you don't want to be, that asshole who's like, look at how great I am and all the stuff that I do, because that guy doesn't get hired either. But I think there's a lot of danger, not just in booking the job or not booking the job by coming in and underselling yourself for a position, but I think there's a lot of personal danger to you as a human being to start to withdraw. And I think if you feel like you're not projecting confidence and feel competent in your work, if you're a freelance artist, you're going to start to not feel confident and competent in yourself as a human
But
being.
do you think there's a separation that needs to happen between who you are as a person and who you are as a business person? Like, who you are in life, the real you, the real Jeff, the real Aaron, the real Adam. You know what I mean? Because sometimes by nature, I'm somewhat, I'm somewhat introverted. I'm loud with you guys because I know you guys, but it's difficult for me to kind of go up and introduce myself. However, sometimes being loud and butting in a little bit is what I need to advance. That's in my field. That's one thing that I'm starting to go through right now is, again, I'm kind of being reminded of the network of what children's theater is and how I could very easily be a part of it, but I need to toot my own horn. I need to get out there and talk to people. I don't know.
Yes.
Okay. So
yes.
Yeah.
If are we? I would like to go as far down this as you are comfortable
Do it.
going, and you tell me to stop
Do
when
it.
you want
Make
to
me
stop.
cry.
But
Have
yes,
an Oprah moment.
I think you fundamentally hold yourself back in that way, and it's doubly bad because you are so aware of it. And so what happens when you are so aware of a problem like that, and this is all of the things that I'm not doing, that I should be doing, that I know I have the skill set to do because I'm a performer, but I'm also you're introverted because you're smart. Because you're an observer, and it's those observations that make you a good performer. But by being so observant and knowing where the gap is of where you are and what you need to do to be into the place that you would like to be has got to be causing you severe guilt and mental stress and feeding into this loop. And that's exactly the thing I think that was trying to articulate earlier, is that if you're not projecting that confidence in your work, then you're not projecting that confidence in yourself. And if you're not confident in yourself, you're not going to get the work, and it's going to get worse, and it's going to feed into each other, or you're going to fall into either a line of work that you are either less satisfied in, or you're going to fall into the right line of work, but you feel like you're not living up to your potential.
Sure.
And as those years get by and that time ticks by, that's just going to compound I feel like the guilt more and more of, oh my God, I could be doing this, I could be doing this. When if you look at nature, and there's this amazing documentary on stress, it's a National Geographic documentary on stress, and it's on Netflix. I can't remember what it is, but look for the National Geographic logo, and it says stress, and I think it's got a outline of a human head looking very stressy and X-ray that talks about primates, and it talks about subordinate monkeys, right? And it talks about how the it's so stupid, but the big, loud alphas are not stressed in that way. Now, we can't all run around and be big, loud alphas and bulls in china shops or whatever. There are things where it's situationally appropriate, but there is something so attractive about an individual who goes in and just owns the room, and that is charming. And charming people are people we like to watch. And if you're a performer, people you want to watch are people you want to hire. And if you're not a performer, people you want to watch and you're being hired for something else are interesting people, and you might hire them to write your piece of software because this is an interesting character that I'm dealing with, and therefore I feel like they are going to return interesting work. Aaron?
Yes.
You got thoughts? I can keep going, but but you're so talented and you're so very good at what you do, and when you just don't give a shit about what the ideal should be in any given moment, and when you let go of a little bit of Zen Master Adam, who's an amazing guy because he's very smart, he's very contemplative, and he reminds me you remind me oftentimes of this very, very wise, sage individual who knows the world and knows that, all this preening for attention that we performers do is really not what life's about and is really not that important. However, all that preening of attention that performers do is necessary for getting the job. But also, I would say that it might be necessary at the right moments for a fulfilled life.
Yes.
It's, because you're here and it's you. And I think it's okay to just be like, you know what? I'm okay at this thing. I'm good at this thing that I do. Or at very least, I'm very confident in this thing I do. You don't have to, I don't think people have to be braggarts about it. But just, just walk in the room, just own it. Be like, yeah, this is what I do. Because I'm not going to, I don't want to get operated on by a guy who's, quiet and not sure, even if he never says it, projects in body language that they're not sure about what they're doing. And that's something that I'm taking to task and learning a lot about lately, because I am, you guys have probably figured this out, I am someone that, I'm a fixer. It's so hard for me to listen to problems. I open my damn mouth and I want to try to help people, and my intentions are good, right? And I want to try and fix things and help people make situations better. But what the flip side of that is, I often kind of enable bad habits in other people, and I sort of take a subordinate role to people because I'm trying to, a lot of times I won't speak my mind on my real opinions about things, even in my closest friends, because I will want to mirror their opinions so that they feel better about how they feel, so they grow in their confidence, instead of just saying, you know what, I just disagree with you, and your thing is your thing, and that's cool. But you know what? I just really disagree with you, and this is how I feel,
believe that,
and this is what
I believe that
value.
exact same thing.
Mirror neurons. And physically, that manifests in that I shift my feet a lot. I speak very quickly, and I concave my shoulders. And lately, because I've been doing this exercise routine that I've been doing to fix my back problems, which concaving my shoulders like I've done has caused, I'm having to keep my shoulders back every day consciously as an effort. And going back to that stress documentary, that kicks in all these primate things. There's this TED talk about power poses. You guys maybe have seen it. I think everyone's seen it at this point. It's really true. It's so freaking stupid, but it really works. Throwing my shoulders back forces my chest to be out and be forward. And because I've been working out, I've got a little bit more, whatever about it. And because a little more confidence, and because I'm older, I'm starting to get a little more set in my ways and my opinions about certain things. But I tell you what, just having my opinions and just allowing myself to say, this is what I think, this is what I feel, this is what I think I'm good at, and I'm just going to try and relax and be confident about it, is beginning to make everything else in my life a lot better, because now people are meeting a true representative. Now people are not meeting my agent. You know what I mean? Not meeting the Jeff that needs to say hello and do the niceties. It's actually, who I am now. And the people that maybe don't like that, they go do whatever it is that they go do, and it's okay. And it's really better in the long-term transaction of any kind of relationship that who's really in the room with you up front. And that means that those relationships that I have that are still around are doubly important because they're doubly true. And so I think the same thing would apply in an artist situation. Again, I know I'm thinking actors mostly, because you want to be able to walk in the room in the audition situation and be as close to you as a human being as you can be, so that there's very little difference between who you are off stage and who you are on stage in terms of how relaxed you are. Excuse me.
I heard one great speaker at SETC. I believe his name was Richard Robichaux, but I cannot stake my life on that. But I really believe it was. And his whole presentation was about be your best Girl Scout, and that you as an actor should never, when somebody says, "So, what do you do for a living?" and we have a tendency to sort of look down and scuff our feet and be like, "Well, I'm an actor." And he's like, "No, you're an actor. Value it, take it, present it as such, as a positive thing, as a good thing, and you have to be the one out there selling yourself above and beyond anybody else, and you just have to know that, for example, that you're a Thin Mint or whatever. And you go up to people and you're like, hello, would you like a Thin Mint? And they could be like, no, thank you. I don't want a Thin Mint right now. And you're like, all right, my Thin Mints are still good. And then you move on to the next person and you're like, hello, would you like a Thin Mint? And eventually somebody's going to be like, yes, I am dying for a Thin Mint. That's exactly what I need. And so he had this whole presentation about figure out what that you're this great cookie and you're always going to be a great cookie no matter what they're looking for, and just run with that.
Yep.
And it was a great
And
positive
that
and
harnesses
easy to,
all of that power of self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
You know, that thing that to bring it back to Mr. Montague here, that great skill set that you have of self-awareness is flipped on its head is a really great power to say, oh, this is all the things that I do, really freaking well, and I just think that's very powerful, and it's like it's one of the reasons that I love that you do this show is people keep telling me that you are fascinating. You are a fascinating individual, and I think this show brings it out in you. And I think the reason why is because you're hanging out with your friends, talking, on this thing.
Speaking of other fascinating people, because I'm pretty sure one of those people you're talking about, because you've said it before, is Topher.
Yes.
Hello, Topher. I saw Identity Thief at the Dollar Theater. I saw Topher in his little. It was really neat. And it was really, and I just to completely digress, it was really funny because there is a large section of the movie where the two characters, Melissa McCarthy and Jason Bateman, are in St. Louis. But obviously they filmed the majority of the movie in the Atlanta area. And so there are moments where you see sections of the city and they're in St. Louis, or you see part of the skyline. And I could clearly tell what part of town they were in because of things you could see in the background.
I had that moment with Footloose when they left the courthouse in Footloose. They stepped out of the courthouse, and I was like, that's Stone Mountain Village. That's a block away from my house. That is not in wherever they're claiming to be from.
But again, just goes back to the magic of movies, because it was so seamlessly put together with all of these larger, wider shots that obviously had like the St. Louis Arch in it and other things. But you realize you don't ever see the two main actors in any of those shots. You know what I mean? There's no long or medium with them. It's the car moving, or it's two people that you watch running from the back or something, But
yeah, that's the second unit out there filming those.
Yep. Yeah. So, but yeah, saw Topher. He had 3 lines that were in the movie. He said, he was.
Go ahead.
All right, I'll say what he was, and then you tell him what he said. He basically, there's a moment of the movie where Melissa McCarthy's character, like, she looks like a train wreck, and she goes into this like salon, and Topher was part of these 3 people, like it was him and 2 other girls that were basically snickering at her, like, making fun because her hair was all ratty and da-da-da-da. And then Melissa McCarthy like breaks down and like, oh, and then the 3 of them run up and go, oh, honey, let's take care of you. And basically they pretty woman her out so that she goes to meet Jason Bateman in the next scene. Yeah. But go ahead. What were you going to say, Jeff?
Topher said that he and his husband went to see the show, to see the movie.
See the play.
And they were watching it, like, okay, come on, when am I coming on? Okay. And he saw, I believe he said he saw the back of his head first, and he's like, he saw the beauty shop or whatever they were set in first. He saw the back of his head. And he just grabbed his husband's hand and was like, oh my God. And he said, and then there was my big old face in close.
But
that's amazing. Yeah. I mean, that's great. For those of you who don't know, that we're talking about Topher Payne. He's an Atlanta playwright, highly produced, very cool guy. You can check him out at topherpayne.com, TOPHERPAYNE.com. And now back to ArTechník podcast.
Yeah. Well, there's not much of it left. If you look at the countdown
That's
clock,
true. It's about time.
It's almost
It is
time.
about that time.
Anybody else got any little
Anybody
brain
got anything
droppings?
else?
Oh, I have one little thing I've been sitting on for a while. This is a little, this is a device it's an app called Chirp. I'm bringing it up on my phone so I can read about it. But essentially, what it does is this guy named Patrick Burgle. There we go. It's called the Chirp app. It takes information and it runs it through its servers, and it takes the information and turns it into a like 1.8 second burst of 20 notes, like 20 little musical tones. So it'll take information that like a website or like a download site for a song that you want to put out there. And it's just cool because you can download this app. And so even between like iPhone and like Android users, if they both have the app, it can read the tones that it puts out. And so
it just dissects the wave. Huh?
And so apparently this it's been used in a couple of concert venues and sort of outdoor concert and sort of events in Europe mostly. I couldn't find any record of the thing being played here. But like, for example, this music festival in Spain, they said over the PA system that was throughout the event, they would do these little bursts, these 1.8 second bursts. And so people had to keep the Chirp app activated, and it would give you like updates about like, you know, such and such is about to start playing at this stage, or, hey, go to this place and we're giving away free something or other there. So it was just a way to kind of communicate where it wasn't distracting. Because again, you're talking about like a 1.8 second burst of sound. But if your phone would pick it up. Now, again, I don't think it was like playing constantly. So it wasn't like you were, trapped in some hellish aviary where there was all this chirping and buzzing around you. But,
right. Hellish aviary, like all aviaries.
Yeah.
Okay. This might be my first successful podcast tease ever.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. Here's what's funny. I was able to go right to that website when you started talking about
the
it.
Chirp.
And you know why?
Why?
Because you're talking about Chirp, and I would happen to be on the homepage of the guy who designed their website, because I was going to talk about him on the podcast today.
Wow.
But he is cool enough that I want to talk about him next week.
Okay.
And for those of you that want to pregame, his name is John Galantini.
Galantini.
And y'all go look that up, and you'll probably figure out why I want to talk about him next week.
All right. But I also...
So I thought that was crazy. I was like, I'm on his...
That is amazing. And again, only gives credence to the fact that the three of us share one brain that is split into, I'm going to say 5 parts. I think there's like 2 other parts of the brain that are like...
That we haven't met
we haven't met, or like a Horcrux or something. I don't know. It's out there just waiting to be discovered. Yeah. For good or evil.
And we're on the fence right now.
But maybe what we...
Well, I guess we should...
I was going to say, maybe what we should do is maybe I'll download this Chirp app, and I will create something that I could play over our podcast, and other people that are listening at home can listen to the burst. It'll just be like a secret decoder ring.
Oh, like those Batman toys. When
Yes.
the cartoon, the Batman came out, instead of the other variations of the Batman cartoons that have come out.
Yeah, I remember that one. It
They
was all
released
sci-fi.
a series of the Batman toys. And like when the logo went doo-doo-doo-doo on the screen, like the Batmobile toy would go and like light up and go and start driving around your room.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
Cool. That is so cool.
Wow.
Maybe we should...
Oh, I was going to say that totally makes me nostalgic. Do you remember a toy, Captain Power?
No.
Yes, vaguely.
Captain Power. Okay, very briefly. Yeah, like that's me. Captain Power was this toy that it was kind of like set in the not too distant future. Like, it was all, the planet Earth was war torn, but everyone was divided into these sort of like army factions. And so Captain Power was the good guy. And the way the toy worked is it was like this spaceship looking thing that had a trigger on the bottom of it. So you held it kind of kind of like you would a gun, really. And you put the action figure in the cockpit of the Captain Power flying toy. And then what you did was you could buy VHS cassettes that was basically a Captain Power mission. And so when you pulled the trigger, it shot light, and there were targets that would scroll through on the video that was playing on the VHS. And I guess it would respond to certain areas of the screen that lit up a certain way. And so you had to shoot them. And if you shot them, you got points because it kept track of a point system. I think on the back of the flyer was like basically a counter. However, there were also ships that would shoot like a pulse at you, and if you got 3 hits, then Captain Power would like eject out of your little toy gun thing. But they
Your
even
hero would be killed in front of you.
Yeah, but they even had like a weekly series too. I remember where there was like a story, kind of like Power Rangers. So there was like a real cheesy acting costume story, but there would always be like a 5-minute segment every week where you'd get to shoot your gun and play along with Captain Power. Go on a mission with him, basically.
That is so cool.
But
we should find some Captain Power merchandise.
Cool. Okay.
All right.
Now
Well,
it's time.
maybe I should email John Galatini and be like, we're gonna talk about it in the show next week. We'll see if I get brave.
Okay.
If I get brave. Anyway, you're right. We should move on to sign-offs. Okay, I'm not starting today, but I won't finish either. I'll go in the middle.
Well,
Fight for it. Da-na-na. Da-na-na.
okay.
Sorry,
Hey.
I was distracted.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was making faces. So I'm going to go first.
Whoa.
Well, because nobody was stepping up. And you're putting all these boundaries on the sign-offs this week, Jeff. So screw that. Hey, my name is Adam. I'm not used to going first. I usually think of something clever while you guys are talking.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm Aaron Gottlieb, and
Oh, God, yes. Oh.
I'm Jeff, and if I offended anyone, then I'm very sorry, and I take it back. And no, I'm not. That was me. That was me hulking out.
This is Adam, and I am going to be changing some perceptions this summer. This summer, coming to a reality near you. I'm going to be changing perceptions.
Boom, boom.
I'm going to recreate new realities completely around my person. Universes will rise and fall with the mere whisper of my words.
Adam.
this is one of the clunkiest end of episodes we've done in quite a while.
I'm Inception horning.
Oh,
But of course,
We should just try to.
all of this is contingent.
We should just try to sing the theme song on the way out today.
All of this is contingent on whether or not my computer will work next
That's
week.
true. That's true.
Because that's what
That is
happens.
true.
Cliffhanger. Bye, Internet.
Bye.
Shut it down, Jeff. Shut it down.
Shutting it
Shut
down.
it down.
Podcast over.
Universe. Oh, God.